Verlaine, I'm on my way up to the bridge. Verlaine?
This is Commander Steve of the USS Scope SF. Star log number 69. Nice. If you are listening to this, I am most likely very tired. If I had a nickel for every time I played an intergalactic space adventure with the boys and the recording of the final session got corrupted because my recording software decided to shut itself down halfway through, and I don't have any video evidence of everything that happened, and as a result, if I want to put a cap on my journey, I have to record as much gameplay as I can after the fact and then do a post-commentary epilogue session, I would have 2 nickels, which is not very many, but it's still weird that it happened twice. And that's pretty much what happened. We did finish Alien Isolation. As you can see, I'm at least able to go back in so far as the final cutscene of the game, because it was only one save slot and it rewrote itself every time I tried to save. Or at least if there was a way to do multiple save files, I couldn't figure it out, or I just didn't do it straight up. But because I don't have a way of going back to where I was, I don't have a way of getting the additional footage of what we did do unless I start the game over again, which I might do. I might consider going back to playing Alien Isolation on a solo playthrough with, how much I know about the game, how much I've learned about its mechanics. Maybe I can actually get through it without looking like a complete buffoon. But that's something I'll decide in the future. Maybe I'll go back to it, maybe I won't, I don't know. But as for this one, the recording software got corrupted. I, once again, lost everything that I can turn into a recorded memory of mine, which was very disheartening. And I tried what I could to see if I could recover the corrupted footage, but there was no possible way to do it. So here we are, me mostly just getting my thoughts on paper, kind of reminiscing about the adventure that we did have between what can be seen and what can no longer be seen, or what never could have been seen. It is what it is. And, quite frankly, I guess I'm not too disappointed into it. It was a lot of the same thing of everything that was happening. I think towards the end of one of the recording sessions that was able to be salvaged and uploaded, one of the friends, Ron, who is probably the big key player in the Popcorn Gallery, when it came to what was actually happening to on screen. He made the comment of, man, it's incredible how Steve is playing this on very, very hard mode, because not only is he playing against the alien on hard mode, but he has to listen to us talk about, whatever. And, I love it. I love the playful banter of these guys. I think it added a unique dynamic to the game because on the one hand, yes, it was a little bit harder because I couldn't listen to the footsteps of the alien. I couldn't listen to sound cues when we were reminiscing about college days. And I'm really good at listening to sound cues. I'm a Smite player, and I've had to deal with many a Loki, and listening for footsteps is something I've become very, very good at as a result. And I just couldn't do that with the playful banter in the background. But at the same time, being able to listen to something that wasn't high tension, something that drowned out the eerie music, something that drowned out the imminent threat of Alien itself, that I think that distraction helped alleviate a lot of the tension that would have made this game really, really tough for me. So a little bit of a double-edged sword, but I don't regret any of it. I love the way that it was able to play out. And so even though the whole kind of journey was just survival horror while a bunch of silly gooses were just reminiscing about the past, I like I said, I wouldn't trade that for anything, but that's mostly what the last recording session consisted of anyway. So we really didn't miss much. If I'm getting it down on paper, there are only 2 parts of the game from our final recording session that I'm really sad we didn't have recorded. The first one, not entirely sure how to describe it. It was definitely my favorite part of the game by far. I was enthralled with this section. It's the part where we, after so much sneaking around and everything, we have to go down to a power core, some sort of nuclear reactor, and just kind of reset it from there or something. I was not paying attention to the story, I'll be honest. But I do remember this set piece in particular was absolutely incredible. It was one of the creepiest parts of the game for me because even though I know that we were in a space station the entire time, the set itself was this giant engine, this giant reactor looking like it was suspended in midair and was surrounded by a bunch of metal walkway scaffolding. And I don't know what it was about the atmosphere, but it almost made me feel like it was an underwater section. Like, this kind of thing felt like something I might have seen in Subnautica or, Subnautica's a little bit cartoony. What's more accurate? Is Soma the game where it's like Amnesia, but it's underwater? I think it was kind of like that. It's something I would imagine of a game like that where, even despite being in outer space, the fact that it had like a very leagues deep underwater kind of vibe to it really cranked up the tension for me. I think that's why it was so memorable, because it felt underwater. If people were to ask me what is scarier, underwater or outer space, underwater 100% of the time. I do not understand marine biologists, how they're not urinating themselves every time they have to clock into work. If I had to choose a way to die, I would much rather be stranded in outer space as opposed to dying with whatever is lurking underneath our ocean. I don't care if it's more painful to die in outer space. I would so much rather. I'm so much less afraid of space than I am of underwater. And it doesn't help the fact that this section, because I still remember that we're playing an Alien game, and I still see all the tech about this nuclear reactor, it still reminded me that we were in space. So we got the best of both worlds. And I think that that section, that environment, that set piece really stood out to me. It was also funny, there was a little bit of playful banter between me and Ron as well about that section. Because when Ron played the game, he was telling me that Like I said, he was much more of a sneaky person. He was really, really good at it. But at that section of the game, after you go into the alien hive and you come back up and you're trying to escape the reactor, there are a ton of androids that are just booking it at you. And the elevators are too slow. So, and you also have to reset the upper part of the reactor from there, from the scaffolding. So he didn't have a choice but to learn how to really dive into combat. Like, the combat isn't hard. He was able to figure it out. It's not that. But it's not his instinct. It's not his natural play style. So he had to play that section of the game going against a lot of what he knew and, quite frankly, a lot of what was working for him to try and be a fighter for this section. Whereas with me, since I'm always guns a-blazing when I feel like there's actually a threat that's worth using any type of resources on, this section was just kind of another instance of me just shooting things properly. And I thought that was really fun how we were talking about how that section looked so natural to Ron when I was playing it, as opposed to it feeling natural to him when he was playing it, because it just wasn't. And that was a fun conversation to have. And again, I think I just remember that conversation as well as I do because it was aesthetically, it was absolutely my favorite part of the game. Maybe even the best part of the game, if I'm being honest. But we got through that section. And then the last memory that I really have is at the very, very end of the game when we're on the bridge. We're supposed to get to the airlock that's just kind of like right there, right next to the bridge, except there are at least 3 xenomorphs chasing us down, and everything is on fire. Quite literally. Spoilers if you haven't seen the end of a 12-year-old game at this point. At that point, that's on you. But what made this funny was because it was at the very end of the game, I was very low on resources. I had to deal with 3 xenomorphs. And I did not have any flamethrower fuel, or at least nowhere near as much. So I was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and I probably died at this section like 12, 13, 14, 15 times, something like that, to the point where it was not a survival horror game. It wasn't even about combat. It felt more like a sports game where you have to make play calls. A really good comparison. It felt like we were playing the Impossible Quiz, if you remember that Flash game from way back in the day, because I would try and go out. I walk out the door the first time, Xenomorph jumps me. Okay, let's try this again. I go out, Xenomorph jumps me again. Okay, there's always going to be a Xenomorph there. Is there a way to run around it without being killed? Yes, there is. So I go out, run around the Xenomorph, go down the stairwell, avoiding all the stairs that are on fire, and as I enter the lower part of the bridge, a Xenomorph jumps out from the right. So now I have to worry about this guy. On the way of doing that, we happened to find another Molotov that was just kind of sitting right there and always spawns there. And through another iteration, we also found a little bit more flamethrower fuel that we could put in. So now we have essentially 2 shots of flamethrower fuel instead of 1, and we have a Molotov left that we can use. So that's, if we play it perfectly, that's essentially how we can deal with all 3 xenomorphs at once. And it kind of felt like a time loop. Okay, this iteration didn't work. We messed up somewhere along the line. Run it back. And it was just kind of funny, that dichotomy of all of us putting our heads together, seeing what I can do with very limited resources, and if I actually had the skill to pull it off. So, that was fun. It was a fun time. Other than that, the rest of it was really just us playing through the game, finishing the journey, finishing the story. Nothing too much of note happened otherwise. The ending itself really dragged on. It just felt like unnecessary cutscene after cutscene. It felt like they were trying to be too cinematic with it. A lot happened over the course of too long, to the point where you probably could have summed up the key points in an email and sent it to the company, and that would have been it. You know the joke of this could have been an email. That kind of feels like what the ending of Alien Isolation could have been if they really wanted to condense it and really wanted to make it precise. But overall, yeah, it was a good experience. I am sad that I don't have the footage, but it is what it is. I think moving forward, I'm going to try and see if I can find a different recording software that won't just decide to shut itself down and corrupt the footage moving forward. No promises on that. We'll see what I can find. We'll see how that goes. And hopefully, if there is an alternative that I can use really well, then that will be what I use for the next boy game. And we don't have to run into a intergalactic corruption again. But yeah, overall, great memories. I'm glad I had them. I still feel the emotion in my voice as I go back and watch the other videos that we did do of it. I still remember the fun times that we had for what wasn't shown. And hopefully on our next space adventure, we won't have to deal with this problem again. But for what we did have, for what it was worth, thank you all for joining us on this journey, and we will see you all next time.